Below the Crescent Moon, written by Samantha Abbott, narrated by 11 Labs Studio. Chapter 3. Moaning, I swing my head away from the bright rays, slowly opening my eyes to the early morning light coming in through the blinds. I groan, rubbing my forehead, hoping it will ease the throbbing headache. I swear I've never fainted, and I'm getting annoyed with this constant blacking out. But how else would anyone process everything that's happened? Hell, my brain is still having issues trying to process if this is even real. After a few moments, I sit up, swinging my legs over the edge of the bed. I attempt to stretch my stiff neck by rolling it. A soft knock sounds on the door, and the same nurse from the night before pokes her head in. "Good morning," she says as she enters the room. "Would you like some breakfast? Maybe a shower?" Oh man, a shower sounds great and my stomach growls at the mention of food. "Yes to both," I say, still rubbing the back of my neck. I'm starving, and I really could use a shower. It might help get this kink out of my neck. "Let's get you fed first, and as long as you hold down your food, the doctor said we can remove your IV today," she says, while checking the IV bag. I perked up at this. Trying to take a shower with an IV sucks. They always have to tape it up and you can't ever bend your arm. "So, what sounds good?" she asks, smiling. Thinking for a moment, I decided to go with something easy. "Could I have some eggs?" "Not a problem. Would you like some bacon and toast as well?" she asks, taking a notepad and pen out of the front of her scrubs. I nod. "Maybe some orange juice and sausage too?" "Sure thing, dear," she says, scribbling it all down and heading out the door. Okay, so maybe bacon and sausage wouldn't be light on my stomach, but who says no to bacon? About an hour later, I was so stuffed. My nurse must have gotten me a double order of everything, but I gladly ate it all. And I was having no problems holding everything down, thank God. The IV had been taken out, and I'm currently standing under the water as hot as I can get it. They have great water pressure for being a hospital. Not that I've spent a lot of time in any. Only after getting the flu a few times had I been admitted, and the water was never strong or hot enough. This was amazing. They even gave me conditioner, which most only give you baby shampoo, and let's face it, trying to do my hair with just that. Yeah, no. Scrubbing the rest of the soap from my hair, I run my hand over the scar on my thigh. It seems even lighter in color, but you could still notice it. Weird. What exactly had happened to me and how was I healing so fast? This should still be in stitches, and I should be in a lot of pain. Not that I wanted to be, but it just didn't make sense. Not that anything was really making sense at this point. Turning the water off and stepping out, I towel off, wrap my hair up, and another around my body. Walking to the counter, I have fresh clothes neatly folded and waiting. Oh, thank you, Lord. No more hospital gown. I quickly dress in the matching bra and panties with a pair of dark skinny jeans, a white tank top, and a zip-up hoodie. How on earth did they know my size? Everything fits perfectly. Pulling on a pair of socks, I spot a pair of knee-high black zip boots by the door. Wow, talk about your hospitality for a hospital. 20 minutes after getting my hair untangled and pulling it in a high ponytail with a rubber band I found, I make my way from the bathroom. A man, who I assumed is a doctor from the long white coat he's wearing, is standing near the bed, looking over a clipboard. Glancing up, he smiles, making me blush. He's a pretty good-looking guy, around 6 feet with slicked-back blonde hair, hazel-colored eyes, and an almost too perfect smile.
"Hello. I see you are up and moving finally."
He looks back down at what I assumed is my chart.
"So you held down all the food and appear to be moving on your own. Does anything hurt?"
He asks, looking at me as he tucks the clipboard under his arm. I shake my head. It was weird that I felt almost normal. I say almost because I am still really confused as to what's going on.
"Good,"
he says, motioning for me to take a seat as he places the clipboard back on the wall near the bed.
"I'm just going to check you over if that's okay."
Taking a seat, I nod, and he continues.
"Let me know if anything hurts. Even if it's just a little, we don't want to send you out just to have you come right back in."
After checking my vitals and a few other things, he asked to see the scarring on my leg, giving me some privacy to adjust my clothing before checking. Redressed, he returns to the room with a wide smile.
"Well, everything looks good. Your leg is all but healed and you should be back to normal in no time."
A wave of relief washes over me. "So, does this mean I get to go home?" I ask, hopefully. His smile falters.
"Well, Tanner and I have been in discussion about what brought you to us."
Tanner? Oh, right. I had all but forgotten about him. But what exactly had he been discussing? I thought there was patient privacy, and Tanner was definitely not on my contact list. What exactly were you discussing with him? I asked, feeling anger bubble to the surface.
Tanner said he'd filled you in on some of what has happened to you. Mainly the wolf that bit you was infected, is that correct?
He asks, raising a brow. I nod, thinking about last night, and quickly try to push down the anger. I didn't want the doctor to see what I'd seen. He definitely wouldn't let me leave then.
Good. Because physically, you are healed. We can discharge you from the hospital, but we won't be able to let you go straight home. Not until the rest is explained and you can fully control yourself.
This makes no sense. Why aren't you explaining what's going on with me? You are my doctor, aren't you? I snap, glaring at him. Yep, something was still off about this whole thing, and I don't trust it. Regardless of my glowing eyes, this still has cult written all over it.
I understand your frustration, Emily, and I fully understand your need for answers. You will get them all in time, I promise. But the human mind can only handle so much at once. As I am sure you realize that after last night.
Did he know about last night? Of course he did. He was talking to Tanner, wasn't he? I realize this isn't going to get me anywhere. Taking a deep breath, I remind myself to stay calm. Okay, fine. But what am I supposed to do in the meantime? Be locked up in some padded, crazy box thing?
No,
He chuckles, shaking his head.
we won't be putting you in a padded room. Unless you feel you need to be in one.
No. I don't think so, I say, shaking my head. I don't handle tight spaces well. The thought makes me shudder. Yup, claustrophobia is a real thing, and I definitely have it, at least if I'm in a tight space for an extended period. A few minutes isn't bad.
Right.
He claps his hands together.
Seeing you will be staying for the time being, Tanner will make your accommodations.
I'd rather stay in the box, I mumble, crossing my arms. I would not be staying with Tanner. No way. He chuckles.
I wasn't saying that you had to stay with Tanner directly. There is more than enough housing to make you comfortable. You will still have plenty of privacy.
Enough housing? Yeah, this is definitely a cult. I narrow my eyes at my so-called doctor, but after a few moments of us just staring at each other, I nod. Not that I actually agree, but maybe if they think I'm going along with whatever they're doing, I'd be able to get the hell out of here. Pleased with what looks like my cooperation, he leads me from the room to the front desk. A pretty redhead is sitting behind the desk, typing away on the computer. A man is leaning up against the opposite side, chatting away. Now and then she would blush and try to make it seem like she was too busy to keep the conversation going. As I follow behind my doctor, the guy leaning straightens. Was everyone here so dang tall? Coming to a stop in front of the guy, my doctor reaches out, shaking his hand.
Blake, how are you today?
Can't complain.
He shrugs.
Tanner's been running me ragged with his pushy attitude and errands.
Tanner? So, he works for Tanner? My doctor shakes his head before glancing in my direction.
This is Emily Caldwell. Emily, this is Blake Thornton. Blake here will be taking you to Tanner's office so you can get settled for the time being.
Taking care of me? Right? But I'll play along for the time being. I look up at Blake. Okay. So all the guys here seem to be tall and have the same color eyes? This is weird. Why did it remind me of Hitler? Was I going to start seeing a bunch of blondes too? Still, he was good looking. He had hazel eyes, just like my doctor, with jet black hair that's similar to Tanner's. Blake grins at me, reaching out his hand.
Hey, it's good to meet you. When you're awake.
When I am awake? I ask, timidly shaking his hand.
Yeah,
He runs his hand through his hair.
I'm one of the people who found you the other day.
My eyes widen. What? Oh, thank you for, saving me, I stammer. I mean, did he save me? Thinking back to how I ended up here, I guess you could say yes.
No need to thank me. I'd do it anytime.
He winks, and I blush as the redhead behind the counter glares at us.
Well, I have rounds to finish, so I will leave you in Blake's hands. See you later, Blake.
My doctor says, and walks down the hall. I stare after him before turning back to Blake. Shifting, I feel uncomfortable. I've never been one to just walk off with some guy I just met. Though, if he saved my life, I guess I would be okay. If was the big part.
Let's go get you settled in, Emily.
Turning, he heads for the exit. I pause for a moment, unsure if this was really a good idea. Looking back at the desk, the receptionist is still glaring at me, so I doubt she'd agree to let me use the phone, leaving me just one option. Turning back, I follow him. We walk down a sidewalk and through a parking lot to a big black truck on a lift kit. Opening the passenger door, he holds out his hand to help me in. But I just stare.
I don't bite, I promise.
He winks.
Or if you'd like, I can lift you in.
He leans a little closer, a huge grin spreading across his face. Laughing nervously, I take his hand and let him help me up. After he climbs in, we are off. I stare out the window as we drive. The area is beautiful. The trees are thick on both sides of the road as we continue along. Frowning, I again remembered I have no idea where I am. I'd expected there to be a city or town or something that we would go through, not trees upon trees. But, glancing around, there is no sign of human life, meaning making a run for it was going to be a lot harder than I thought. 45 minutes later, we pull down a side road. The gravel crunches under the tires as we make our way into the thick trees. My heart quickens as my thoughts start to spin. I was with some guy I didn't know, probably miles from civilization, and now we are going down some back road? This is like every episode of a missing persons case when some girl willingly gets into some guy's vehicle. He must have sensed my uneasiness.
Don't worry. I'm not going to murder you and bury your body in the woods.
Staring at him, I try to play it cool. Uh-huh. I suppose that's what you say to all the girls that you bring down a deserted road in the middle of nowhere? He smirks.
Just to the pretty ones.
And winks. I give a nervous laugh and look back out the window. Yep, I'm dead. Noticing the trees are thick, I wonder if I could outrun him. The thought of my leg creeps into my mind. I didn't feel any pain, and I wasn't having any trouble walking, but I'd not tried running yet. What if I couldn't? Maybe I can use the denseness of the trees to help in my escape. But looking out the windshield, my plans shatter as we pull into a large clearing. I'm surprised, as a couple of houses pop up to the right and more on the left with more scattering throughout the area. People are walking around chatting with one another, while others are going back and forth to who knows where. I relax slightly, watching some kids run alongside the truck yelling, "Hi, Blake," as we drive by. Looking around more, I notice there are a lot of small houses and a church. A few stores start popping up, and it becomes more crowded the further we go. It's a small community, definitely a cult community. Driving a few miles, the buildings thin out before we make our way up a large hill and circling to the left, down another drive. It's about a half-mile long, with dense trees on either side before we make it to another clearing. A huge brick house stands in the center, and I can't help but gaze up at it. I'd never seen anything like it. This was not a house, it was a mansion. I admit I was kind of amazed. Did Blake live here? Wait, he was taking me to see Tanner, right? Who has an office in the middle of the woods? And this big? No, this must be his house. I sit back in my seat and shake my head. I didn't care. I was not getting out. This was far enough, and I am not staying here. I need to go home and call my dad. I bet he's worried sick about me. I sigh. That is, if he isn't too wrapped up in his work to notice I'd never called. At least I knew Rena would be wondering what the hell happened. We talk almost every day, and it's been a week. Or so they say. Either way, she would definitely notice. The truck rolls to a stop in front of some huge stone steps that lead to a set of double doors. It looks expensive. Blake jumps out, walks around, and opens my door. I glare at him as he holds out his hand.
Don't worry.
Right, don't worry, I scoff, folding my arms over my chest. You've only just driven me into the middle of the woods to a house?
This isn't Tanner's house. Weren't you told I was bringing you to his office?
Office? Yeah, okay. Who would have an office this big and in the middle of nowhere? Glancing around, I decide I might as well not fight him on it. After all, I still had no idea where I was. If I continue to play along, I might be able to figure out where I am and give myself a better opportunity to escape. Jumping down, I ignore his hand. He looks amused but doesn't say a word, just closes the door and heads up the steps, leaving me to follow. Okay, this was definitely a mansion. It was huge. The moment you step through the door, a giant chandelier hangs dead center. It was gorgeous, with diamond accents and pearls. The rest of the entry is just as beautiful. The floor has to be made of marble. It's a beautiful pearl color, swirled with bits of black that really make it pop. Large hallways stretch straight ahead and to the right and left. A large staircase stands to the right, with dark wood railings that twirl up along the wall to a landing, that then level out into a walkway before it continues up and out of sight. Spinning around slowly, I try to take it all in. Blake clears his throat, bringing me from my awe. He's standing on the bottom step with an amused look. I've never seen an office like this before, I say, walking next to him as we start up the stairs.
Well, it's not just an office.
He glances at me. Uh-huh. I'd already thought as much, so I just nod, making our way across the landing and down the hall. We pass by a few doors before stopping at one on the left. Blake walks in without knocking, holding it open for me. Stepping through, I notice Tanner immediately. He's sitting behind a desk scribbling something on paper. 2 leather chairs sit in front of his desk with a couch to the left and stacks of books and papers on the opposite wall. He looks up once he's finished and frowns.
Don't you ever knock?
He asks, dropping his pen on the desk and leaning back in his chair. Blake shrugs.
Why? It's not like you're busy. You have me doing all your running.
Tanner glares at him, but Blake just stares back with an amused look. I clear my throat after a minute. I wasn't going to stand here all day while these two had a staring contest.
Right. Blake, you can go.
Blake gives a mocking salute to Tanner before he bows his head slightly to me and heads out the door, closing it, facing Tanner, who motions to a chair in front of his desk. I sit down but stay perched on the edge. Maybe I should have bolted after we got out of the truck. God, I'm stupid. Every fiber in me has been saying run, and here I am, sitting in some stranger's house/office. Like an idiot. Tanner leans back in his chair, running his hand over his face, before he stares at the ceiling.
You look like you're feeling better.
He looks at me. I just nod and wait for him to continue.
Good. So, now we can get into the real reason why you're here.
He stands and paces to the window, looking out.
Do you believe that there is more in this world than what you believe to be true?
What is he talking about? Did he want to have some sort of a spiritual conversation? Tanner glances back at me. I don't know, I say, shrugging. I guess so. But I don't see how that has anything to do with why I'm here or almost dying from a crazed animal.
Actually,
He turns to face me.
it has everything to do with why you are here.
Pinching my nose, I close my eyes. My head is starting to hurt again, which irritates me even more than my stupidity and his questions. Why didn't I just run? Look, I say, dropping my hand and giving him my full attention. I just want to know what's going on and why I am here.
Do you like movies?
He makes his way back to the desk and sits down. Seriously? I groan. Are you trying to ask me on a date? Is that what this is? He looks amused.
No, I am simply asking if you like movies.
Sure, I guess, I shout. He nods.
What kind?
I don't know. All kinds, I snap, throwing my hands in the air. What does this have to do with me being here? I'm getting annoyed, and I feel a low rumble building in my chest. Ignoring my question, he asks another.
Do you like fiction movies?
Sighing, I cross my arms and glare at him. After a few minutes, I realize he isn't going to say anything until I answer. So I nod.
Do you like dogs?
Really? Are we playing 21 questions? Yeah, sure, I snort. Preferably ones that don't try to eat me.
Do you know why your eyes were glowing violet yesterday?
This caught me off guard. I stare at him for a moment. Because I got bit by that wolf? And because you are all crazy and have some weird cult compound in the middle of the woods that you want me to join, but I don't say that out loud. Still, it doesn't explain. How would that make my eyes glow? I ask. But again, he just stares at me, which is kind of annoying seeing he just asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered all of them. You said that it was infected, right? He nods. Okay, so with the questions you just asked, was this played out in a movie that you think I may have seen or something? He nods again, but I'm drawing a blank. So, he is trying to tell me I am sick from a bite, from an infected wolf. That was played out in some science fiction movie? Not only is this completely ridiculous, but no movie I've seen has ever talked about a person being bitten by a dog and having their eyes glow. Shaking my head, I glare at him.
Have you ever heard of werewolves?
All I could do was stare at him. A laugh bubbles up my throat, and I try to hold it in by covering my mouth. But it doesn't do any good. Before I can stop myself, I'm busting a gut. Laughing so hard, my sides hurt and tears roll down my cheeks. Sure, it wasn't that funny. But with all the crap I'd been through, I couldn't help it. Finally, I'm able to pull myself together. Looking at Tanner, who has a serious face, I try to hold in another spurt of giggles. So, what are you trying to tell me exactly? I manage. That I was bitten by a werewolf? He nods with no emotion on his face. You have got to be kidding me. Do I look stupid? I ask, minus the fact I rode out here somewhat willingly and didn't run when I had the chance.
Think about it. You were attacked by a wolf. 1 week later, you wake up in the hospital. Your wounds are fully healed. Yesterday, your eyes glowed a different color, and when you got mad, you felt like you wanted to jump out of your skin.
How did he know how I felt? I never told him what it felt like. My brows fur as I think about it. Reaching up, I rub my brow. I really do not want to deal with the headache. I take a deep breath, trying to keep calm. It's not possible, I say after a minute, and straighten in my chair, looking him in the eyes. I don't know what kind of sick game you think this is, but I will not buy into this whole werewolf thing. Standing, I make my way to the door. I will see myself out. Reaching for the knob, his hand shoots above my head, holding it closed. Turning, I glare at him. Get out of my way, I snap, straightening to my full height. Not that it does any good. He still towers over me, but I won't let him intimidate me.
You don't believe me.
I scoff, rolling my eyes and turn back toward the door.
I can prove it.
He lets go of the door and crosses his arms over his chest. My eyes narrow as I glare at him. Fine, prove it.
Follow me.
He opens the door. Lead the way, I say, reluctantly following him out of the room.
I was running through the night, chasing echoes in my mind. Didn't see the golden eyes hiding deep inside the pines. Flames like fire, shadows whispering my name. One bite, one curse, nothing will ever be the same.